Alright, welcome back. I told you I was going to show you how I like using tandem rigs for freshwater setups, and I actually tied a couple of examples of ways that I like using the tandem rig for freshwater fishing. Now, the first one's going to seem a little different. Alright, I've seen variations other places, but I actually have a very, very shallow water running crankbait. You can use any kind of top water, something like that, but something very, very buoyant. And it's on a very short tandem leash, like I demonstrated earlier on the tying of them. And under it I have a very, very light inline spinner, or you use a very, very light jig head with a curly tail. But the idea is that this is very, very light. I just like this because it's flash. And then they're short little jerks. It creates a lot of flash and attention. I like using this for shallow water, very shallow rivers, or when I'm casting up right onto the shore. I like this rig because it doesn't run too deep, and it gets a lot of attention, a lot of flash. You can go a little smaller on this as long as you keep this small. Alright, but great for crappie, white bass, especially the small little inline spinner. Perch will hit it sometimes too, even bass. So very, very cool little rig for shallow water as far as tandem going. You're hitting kind of all the angles when you're real shallow without running too deep. And you can keep this a little shorter too if you need to, but this is shallow aid. It's a nice little bomber lure. But all right, so that's one of my kind of like my shallow water, top water one. This is going to be more of my depth-seeking midwater. Hear my little one in the background. All right, I have a lighter weight inline spinner on the top section and a heavier road runner on the bottom. The key to almost all of your tandems is to have a lighter, in this case a buoyant one for the shallow water, or a lighter inline on your top section, and a heavier for your longer lower section to help keep them from getting tangled. Alright, this one's great for working a little deeper for structure, for or say you're casting out and coming back deeper. This is great for coming off a break or any kind of drop off looking for crappie. Again, it'll work for white bass, stuff like that in a river real well. If you're trolling, this works really well if you're trolling in a couple of feet in a stream or river. All right, but definitely a little more of my depth searching active rig, just for casting out and reeling it back in. Now this rig looks a little different. It looks almost like my dropper rig, and it's very, very similar to my double drop rig. I have just one little loop here, a little loop here to attach to, and then just a straight line to a heavier jig head. This is more of my vertical setup. Now, I've seen people do it where they set this one up as a hook with a bait on it. That works great too. I was going over how I use this more for artificial fishing, but that can be done as well. So I have bait up here and an artificial jig here. This is a little larger than most of the things I would use this for freshwater wise, but I just use it as a demo here. So you go with a lighter jig head or just a hook with bait up top, heavier jig head on the bottom, and this works really, really well for vertical jigging. All right, if you're on some structure, great for crappie, good for panfish too. Just perch. I have caught bass with a rig like this, so very, very useful. Again, the goal of the tandem rig is to kind of double up on your options. It also allows you to work different combinations, different color combinations for curly tails, jig heads, things like that, for you to kind of experiment and see what they're hitting. Once you find what the fish are biting at, then you can switch both to that, or sometimes you'll find that they kind of hit 50-50. You'll get half one style, half another, and so definitely increases your chances that way of catching more fish. Alright, so my freshwater tandem setups, if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Thank you.